a lot of that information to themselves as being on purpose, and I think that is
they
really
knew.
cool.
They knew what they knew. They were onto him already.
Yeah.
But they also knew how smart he was, and they knew his he has an undergrad and a master's degree, and he was getting a PhD in criminology. So he has it almost empowered him, right? We don't know what happened. Oh my God. So he got brazen and he got bolder with the things that he was doing. He was on Reddit, under a pseudonym and stuff like that. So we know, if anything, it emboldened him to think he really got away with it.
Well, I do think early on we did hear that the one roommate, that she had a stalker who was him. And you would think that would kind of make him be like, okay, let me lay low over here.
Yeah, I've not heard that.
I thought the stalker was some other guy.
Was it a different guy?
I didn't hear that it was him.
Okay.
That's what makes me think it was
They were
a different
talking
guy,
about some
because it
guy
said
named
that they.
Adam.
We knew about the
Yes.
messaging. Yes,
Yeah.
we did hear about Adam. I was thinking the stalker was him, but that makes sense if it was a different guy. Because we did hear early on about a stalker.
Yeah.
And then about her, one of them's little ex-boyfriend, they just broken up. So we were all thinking, okay, maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's this guy.
And I just think the police, they took a lot of heat. I remember reading when it first happened, it's like, what are they doing?
They're just a bunch
There's
of podunk
killer on the
Idaho.
loose.
Yeah,
They're doing everything wrong, and what an amazing job they actually ended up doing, and sort of just taking all that heat and letting people think what they think. And you see how it plays out on the flip side with the Murdaugh investigation, where we knew all of these things coming out. And there's court of public opinion now. We all think how we feel before it even comes out. That's not going to happen here, right? Because they already have the physical evidence now. And then I think there's more. Sade and I were talking about why the police weren't called. So I guess they were murdered between 4 o'clock and 4:25, I think I read.
Yeah.
And at least that's what the warrant said. And then the police weren't called until noon the next day, even though one of the roommates saw a man, said she locked herself in the room. They don't call till noon, and the warrant says that the call said they were unconscious. They were worried their roommate was passed out and she wouldn't wake up. Which, if they're stabbed, and the warrant also says there's blood everywhere, and so that call is not, I think my roommate. It's like, oh my God, my roommates are stabbed, and so I have so many questions about
she
that.
called her friend to come and call 911.
But
she didn't even call 911.
I also think that's because they're being very protective of this roommate witness. They won't even give her name; it's just her initials, and I would like to see, and I'm sure they did, if they did as thorough of an investigation to him. When I hear a noise in my house, I'm like calling my fiance or my mom, like, I heard a noise, I'm going to check, just listen to me, I'll describe the bad guy.
Yeah.
Call 911.
So I'm sure if that happened, she was talking about it and she was scared. And I think that there's going to be more information on that, but I wouldn't put it past this police department to keep it under wraps until trial.
Yeah. Well,
And
his
we know
trial
there's,
is set for June.
And the judges granted probably the most tight gag order I've ever seen in a case, in a criminal case, because normally we see a lot of this stuff. So
I'm not judging her. I have so many questions, I want to pass judgment on her, but then I'm like, maybe they're just not telling us the whole story.
right, and our gut reaction is we all we've talked about this on this program, but we all think we know what we would do in a situation until we're faced with it. Except, and one of the things is we always think it's either fight or flight as our reaction to these things, but we realize, and what the data now tells us and the science is there's also something called fawn as a reaction, F-A-W-N. And what that means is that sometimes we just get quiet and we become polite and nice, as crazy as that sounds.
Deer in headlights kind of situation.
Oh, yeah,
Totally deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And you just kind of just go along with things because it's self-preservation a little bit.
Well, we see that with sexual abuse cases.
Oh, all the time.
So,
And I can imagine being that roommate and locking my door and refusing to come out
I'm not
until
going out at
it
all.
is very bright, until I don't hear another
And
noise
then-
out of the
until
house.
somebody else gets here.
Yes, yeah, until I know someone else is home.
Maybe trying to talk yourself into maybe that's not the reality of what you heard, right?
Yeah.
And maybe everything was okay. Maybe she was just upset.
Or maybe she was drinking
but you're
a little bit.
scared. Yeah.
Because I also read that it was a party house. They had a bunch of parties there, and it was not uncommon I went to college and had a house like that.
Right.
Not uncommon
Yeah,
for
us
people
too.
to be in and out, and especially somebody's boyfriend or somebody met somebody.
Right.
And so maybe she didn't really comprehend what it was until she put it all together.
And I can imagine someone convincing themselves otherwise.
Right.
Too,
If you're,
you
if
know?
you think there's a man in a mask
Who
in
would
your
ever
house,
think
and your
that's
roommate
when
was
you're
just
killing your
whimpering, you're
roommate?
going to be like, I need to go to sleep, and this will be better
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
Like, I'm psyching myself out. I watched The
stuff going
Strangers
on.
too many times.
That movie for me too freaks me out.
I have not watched the movie, and I
Don't
will not
watch it.
be watching
Right.
it.
Don't watch it.
See, the scariest movie I've ever seen is My Girl. Okay. As a mother,
You don't do scary movies.
No. Well, that is the scariest movie. Yeah,
That one
right?
and what's the one where you're allowed one night to do whatever crime you want?
The Purge.
That freaks me out too.
I don't watch that.
I'm not
either.
watching
I don't do this.
Blood and
watching
gore's
that.
not the thing. For me,
Beaches.
I wasn't
Beaches
so
is-
scared at The Strangers
Mom
until
dies.
the end. When they were like, it's because you want, like, we try to rationalize why.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you mean people do this for no reason?
Right. You want
They
someone
do.
who's done
like
nothing
this guy
wrong.
did this for no reason, which is terrifying, and I'm glad that they caught him.
So as far as you all being attorneys, for this case in June, what do you think the defense is going to say about this, and how would you prepare for the prosecution?
I think they've got a. I think the defense attorneys have a really big problem with their case because the police have done
So much,
And
yeah.
this is what you want in a prosecution, right?
Easy.
We want them to, with conviction, say this is what happened. This is and we can prove it with this evidence, right? That's what you want. in
Without
any
them even
prosecution.
telling us under the facts, under a gag order,
Yeah.
they have lined up all this physical, like,
Real life,
objective
yeah.
evidence that he was there and he did this. And so for me, I heard his defense attorney say that he can't wait to be exonerated on these charges.
I guess.
And as I'm a defense attorney, I am trying to
All right.
plea and not get the death penalty. I don't know if they have that in Idaho.
However, we know that whether to plead or go to trial is literally the only thing that a defendant gets to make. That's the only decision that they get to make. I had a judge explain one time to a client that, you get to make the decision of how you want your cancer treated. You get to decide whether you want surgery or if you want to do chemo, right? But you don't get to tell the surgeon what to do with the knife, right? He chooses what to do with the knife. And so the defendant's one choice is, am I going to plead or am I going to go to trial? And there are instances where, as a defense attorney, I have seen some great police work where it is loaded up and I don't know what to do. And so if I were in this position, I'd attack the science.
When life